Hey everyone, it's Emmi Fortin. Welcome to Candid, where we talk to everyday people about their relationship stories and struggles, what they learned, and most importantly, how they moved forward. So today I have my guest here, Ilene, and I'm so happy that she's joined us because we are going to have a discussion about some of our blind spots. And for Ilene, it has to do with really getting to know yourself and how that will affect your relationship. So welcome, Ilene. Thank you so much
Thank
for joining
you.
us.
Thanks,
Awesome.
Emmy.
So
Glad to be here.
cool. So tell us, Ilene, what would you say the most impactful thing you learned about your past relationship that you're going to talk with us today about? What would that be?
When we fly on an airplane, which a lot of us haven't done lately, but we will again, we hear put the oxygen mask on yourself first, so then you can help the young ones around you. And that is the most impactful thing I have learned in a relationship, that I have to make sure I'm strong and I'm taking care of myself, because I cannot be there for another person if I'm not breathing right or acting right, or within myself in the right way.
Okay, sure. So you're saying that we really need to bring our energy and our focus back to ourselves, our own personal health on multiple levels in order to be a functioning, healthy participant in a relationship.
Absolutely. If you don't really know yourself inside and out, and you don't really know, who you are, then you either end up people pleasing, saying yes, building resentment, or, my story is being with the wrong people because I didn't even know what I wanted. Oh, that looks good. They have the job I like. I think I'll date them. Oh, they have the car I like. I think I'll date them. It wasn't really about their values and, how we lived and how we presented ourselves every day in this world.
Sure, sure. And I'm sure that a lot of people struggle at any age, but probably more when we're younger. After we get out of school, we're trying to decide what path in life we're going to take. There's probably a lot of indecision for a lot of people about who they are and what they want, right? And it's okay. All of our life is a learning process. It's not like, oh, I wake up and I know myself. It's going to happen our whole lives, but you had mentioned specifically like some of the mistakes, which we all know are learning experiences that you made were because you weren't super secure or knowing yourself, that ended up showing itself in your relationship.
Mhm.
So give us like a little backstory, maybe some specific examples of how that affected you in your relationship.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I had a vision of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to be. And then I wanted my dating partners to fall into that. So they filled a certain category. And I thought that, I wanted to be, oh, I wanted to be a woman about town. I wanted to be a party girl. I lived in New York City. I wanted to, be out dancing every night. So I thought that was important to me. So I dated people who I met in those venues. Well, even though people have multiple sides to them, I was basically meeting people who were hanging out in bars all day and were drinking. And in those days, were doing a lot of drugs. And really, it wasn't about what happened personally between the two of us. It was about what was happening outside, having someone on your arm or something like that. And I thought that, oh, if I'm out and I'm at the best parties and I'm at the best bars and everyone knows me, oh, I'll be fine. Everything will be good in my life. But it wasn't, because I wasn't getting nurtured. I wasn't feeling seen. I wasn't feeling that this was getting deeper, right? Like all of my relationships were really fun in the beginning, great time. Oh, he likes to go to museums. I like to go to museums. He likes to go eat out and eat fancy sushi. I like to eat fancy sushi. I didn't really know who I was, and I just kind of went with them. And then as the relationship went on, I was like, is this even fun? Do I even know this person? Because somehow I wasn't feeling fulfilled. I wasn't feeling connected on a personal level.
So powerful. I love that you're making the distinction between like to do these things or these activities versus I really like what this person stands for or who they are as a person. And for you yourself, I like to do these things, but what are my core values? And that's one thing that you had mentioned right out of the gate in our conversation. And so, what did you come to discover were some of your core values that maybe choosing partners based on things that you like were not in alignment? Because I think this is a very common thing as well. People choosing partners based on things they have in common, like interests, versus their core values, morals, and who what they stand for.
Absolutely. That is so true. So one of my core values is integrity. Does someone say what they're going to do it? And it's not just like I say I'm going to go to the store and I go to the store, but the way I treat other people is with kindness and respect. And do I see that? Is that how they're treating the waiter? Is that how they're treating the someone on the subway? Is that how they're doing everything in their life? So I would have a disconnect there, right? So I like people that really treat people, have integrity. When they say they're going to do something, they follow through on it. And I had lots of examples where the guys I was dating wasn't doing that, but I was like, oh, it was late at night. Oh, he was rushed. Oh, that guy was, not giving us the best service. But I refuse to kind of see the pattern. So integrity is a really big one for me. Another one is honesty. Do I feel that I'm getting the whole story? There's a lot of talks about relationships, who's on what phone and what now. You don't want to have to ask those questions. You want to know, and you can feel it in the pit of your stomach if someone's being truthful with you or not. And I would look the other way. Oh, it was a circumstance. It's this, it's that. So I think honesty is really, really important. And for me, I think the biggest thing comes down to how I want to live my life, who I want to be. Do I want to what is it like when we're alone together? And I always like to say, it's really easy when all the lights are green and you're driving down the road and there's no snow and there's no other traffic. Everyone's a great driver. But what happens, when you get into a little fight? He wanted to go one way, you wanted to go the other. His vision we would take this vacation and you wanted to take that. These are luxury problems. But what happens when you disagree? And what's the chain of events? And for me, it was always that I would end up agreeing, swallow whatever interest I had, because assume if I didn't do it, they would break up with me. So I don't know what that core belief is or that core, but it's like thinking they're more important than me. It's not that we're in this together. They're, giving them all the power.
So glad that you brought that up, because that seems to be in the multiple people that I've spoken with, in my own personal experience, that seems to be a very common thread that people are experiencing, particularly women. I don't want to stereotype, but I have tended to see it more of that with women. And I don't know if it has to do with, like, exactly like you said, if I don't agree or go along with it, then they're going to abandon me, or they're going to leave me, or maybe I'm not good enough to live up to that standard, so I need to get myself up there. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And I also like the distinction of the importance of knowing the kind of characteristics that we might want in another person. But one thing that I always ask, I have a coaching program, and I ask this question: how do you want to feel in your relationship?
Mm,
And that question is really just another way of asking, what are your core values and what do you stand for? Because, I have this relationship cheat sheet that I use with people, and it's a free download. So if anybody wants to grab it, you can just go to my website, but it has you outline, okay, what are you looking for? What are you not looking for? But there's one quadrant that says, how do you want to feel consistently? So of course you're going to have your ups and downs, but so what you're saying to me here in your stories is that you had these core values: honesty, integrity. So the person might have had the characteristics you were looking for: fun, outgoing, party or whatever, but you weren't feeling that sense of honesty between you, that sense of integrity. And that is a huge disconnect. So Eileen,
Emmy.
what would you say, having kind of discussed all that,
Mhm.
what would you say made you realize that this was important to you, and how did you go about working on yourself and making some changes?
So when you ask it that way, how do you want to feel? The key thing that comes to me is safe. I want to feel safe, that whether I say yes or no, whether I agree with them or disagree, whether I go out or stay home, that I am valued in the relationship and appreciated and seen. So safe is a really important word for me. And I think in this day and age, a lot of people come from homes that have interesting dynamics, and we are looking for a place to be seen and safe.
I love how you just rephrase that, because I agree. I think that's super, super key. And so knowing that and thinking about that,
Oh,
realizing that, how did you make those changes within yourself, to make your life and
so
relationships different?
So I think you asked the exact right question. How do you feel? Because if you're going home, I'd have like this great night and we'd go out for a big dinner and then we meet up with friends and then, we'd have an overnight and we'd have amazing sex. And then the next morning I would go home and I wouldn't feel good about myself for some reason. And I couldn't put my finger on it. And I always thought it was about me. Oh, if I had just lost 5 pounds and those other pants fit. Oh, if I had just said this to that one. Oh, if I had just given my business card and done this differently. Oh, if I had, I'm playing that game in my head. And I realized I wasn't really getting fulfilled. I wasn't getting what I needed. And I had to start to think about, well, what do I need? Why don't I feel that way? It was a huge aha, and it didn't happen to me. I turned 60 about 6 months ago, and it didn't happen to me until almost, 2 or 3 years ago that I realized, wow, I am almost I'm a 57-year-old woman, and I am waiting for this guy to make me feel good. I am waiting for him to take care of me. And I realized, you know what? I got to take care of myself. I have to show up. I had a big job, a big career. I'm like a confident woman. I would be managing, 10,000 workers, and I'd show up on the date. What do you want to have for dinner tonight? I don't know. Oh, do you want to go here? Whatever. Instead of like, hey, I got a schedule. Let's do this. I heard about this great restaurant. I was always leaving it to them. So I had to really say, it's almost, it's called dating for a reason. You're not getting married. It's like figuring out who they are. Do you like them? Do you want to see more of them? And I think, it gets really confused with sex. So you got to really separate the person from the sexual attraction, because I think that's a really important part of it. That if you really look at who they are, do I like this person as a friend? Do I like me who I'm with when I'm with them? Do I drink too much? Do I eat too much? Do I talk too much? Do I get sucked into a vortex when I'm with them? Maybe that's not the right person. But if it's someone that you come away feeling inspired, motivated, you know, full, you feel grounded, that's who I want to be with. And I realized if I couldn't feel those things in myself, they weren't going to make me feel that. So I had to learn how to feel those things. And that's the journey that I started about 3 years ago. And it's really self-esteem building. And you mentioned it, that a lot of women especially, are so worried, will the guy like them? It's a little like an interview process on a job, which is, they're so busy worrying, are they going to hire you? You don't think, I don't want to work in that environment. That doesn't sound good. I don't like that job. We're so ready to be, loved. Oh, I want to be involved, or I want the job. We don't think about what doesn't fit for us. And that's about building your own self-esteem. And I got some really good advice, which was really simple. Everybody says, how do you build self-esteem? Do esteemable acts. Well, I've always done the right thing, and I'm, a social worker by training, so I was always helping people and community minded. But what was the right thing for me? I had to start with just a shelf of things I loved every day. My favorite candle, my favorite tea, a cute little picture frame. I don't know what your audience is, but my favorite sexy underwear that I was saving for something special. I would never wear it just a day for myself. So that's how I started to realize, what do I like? What do I want? Instead of, why am I always trying to please them and just say yes?
Wow, I love all of that. I love the story. I love the advice. It resonated with me a lot because I used to do the same exact things. And one thing that I really picked up on that you were talking about too is like, how did I feel when I'm with that person and then after, like when we're separate. And I know when you said that right away, I was thinking back to my own experience of I always felt drained. Like I was tired. And so, it's this the opposite of like invigorated, inspired. Like I felt drained. So that is a huge thing. And then allowing yourself to express and experience all of the things that you like just for you. I can super resonate with like saving, that article of clothing for a special time and like not just wearing it like on an everyday day to work, like why not? Like why are we saving that? So that was so cute that you brought that up. I had the same experience.
It's funny because I tell so many people that, and I can't tell you, like, now people send me chats. Look, I'm on a Zoom and I'm wearing my favorite shoes. Who cares? Nobody can see it. Because, I mean, during COVID and, we're coming out of it now and we're seeing people again, but we were all like at home and you had to really figure out how to love yourself and what to do and what's in your closet that you miss. And that's a really good process to starting to know yourself. And it's funny because when I say that, I remember, I had a uniform that I thought I had to wear. I had to wear the little black dress, the high heels, the expensive pocketbook, certain jewelry. Like I was always trying to be who I thought they wanted to be, the good wife, if anyone's seen that show, or what we think of the good wife, the Mary Tyler Moore, the icons, instead of who am I? I like to show up in a t-shirt. I mean, that's what I like. And I was always afraid to be that person.
So true. Yeah. And I think that resonates with so many people on many different levels. So, yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. I love that. So, I know that now, because you mentioned that it took you a long time to figure all this stuff out, right? And of course, we keep on figuring it out throughout our lifetime. But once you get to a certain point, you become self-aware for the most part, and you start to become much more aware of what you like, what you don't like, what you stand for, don't stand for. And it makes it so much easier to create boundaries around what kind of behavior you will accept versus not accept and how you will react in certain situations. So I think awareness is definitely that first step that once you get there, you've just
Mhm.
made huge leaps and bounds. So now that you've become more self-aware, you found yourself later in life in this relationship, which is thriving. So tell us about that.
So, I think it's also really important, though, when you talk about that. Are you a relationship person? I always wanted a relationship, but I never really made time for it. I had a full time job. I had a daughter. I had commitments. I had career. Did this. I was skiing. I was traveling. So I would say I had time for it, but it wasn't a priority to me. And, over 4 years ago, I retired and I moved out of the city up into a small town, and I realized, small town living is so different than the city. I could see the couples, I could see how they did individual things and together, and I could see what it was really like to see your best friend. And unfortunately, I think there aren't that many great couples out there. I think hopefully we'll see more and more over time, but it was really hard for me to find people whose relationships I wanted to emulate. And so as I started to think about why am I attracting the wrong guys and why am I feeling bad, I started to look at my friends that were married or in good relationships or people I knew and really think about like, what is it that they do? So you have to also learn, like, even to be in a relationship. So first you have to know who you are and what you want. And in this relationship, we met on Tinder, so it's possible. It's not just about looks, right? We met on Tinder, and from day one, we were just honest with each other. What are you looking for? What do you want? What's your story? And, I think anyone who's done online dating, figures out pretty soon how to, I don't know what the right word is, but how to tell if someone's giving you a line or if they're real. And, this was just one of those things that I can only say that it's the universe that led us together, because I'm country, he's city, I'm city, he's country. He's over 6 feet tall, I'm under 5 feet tall. I have two master's degree, he has a GED. He was a farmer, I, like, wrote national policies, right? So we're so different, yet in our core we are the same person. And I think both of us were looking for safety, and somehow we could get to that. And that was only because neither of us was afraid to show up. Both of us were not afraid to show up vulnerable. This is the mistakes I made in the past. This is what led me here. This is why. And to answer any questions and be honest. And that is a gift, a real gift.
I super, super agree. I know, like, personally, that was the biggest decision I could ever make in my whole life. Was I told myself I was going to show up 100% honest. Like, there was a moment I was like, from this moment on, and I don't, and it's not like I was like a liar before, but like you were saying, I would lie to myself about, like, whether the behavior was okay. I'd be like, oh, okay. And I, make excuses, or, what I liked or didn't like, what I want or didn't want. And so there was a moment when I was like, from this moment on, only 100% honesty with myself first, and then 100% honesty with the other person,
Right.
without fear of whether what I'm presenting will be accepted or not. Like, I'm going to present my piece and be ready either way, and be fine with it because it's my truth. And that, I will say, was what liberated me the most. It was the most freeing, because then you enter, like you said, a relationship with someone where you are showing up as just you, nothing else. And there's nothing more rewarding than feeling accepted, supported, and safe for who you are, not what you're trying to be, or not what you think the other person wants. So glad that you brought that up.
Yeah. And the mechanics of that are when you focus on kind of your truth and their truth comes out, then that's when you're able to leave all the things that you judge before. What shoes do they wear? What car do they drive? What kind of job do they have? Like, when you really relate to them and how do you think, who are you? What's important in your life? Then you can let go of all the things that were keeping me to making bad decisions, right? If they drive this car, they must be this. Or if they, live here, or if they work in this field, they must be, if they're a doctor, they must be caring. Not always true, right? But now, once I left that and said, okay, for me, you know, I mean, little things. I wanted a guy that if we're out and about and we're picking up coffee, he would come out with a bunch of flowers. And don't you know, this guy has done that. You know what I mean? Or, or I mean, I love flowers, and people only buy them on special occasions. And then when he knew I love flowers, he not only bought me flowers, he bought me a bush for my garden, so I'll always have flowers. Like,
Aw.
that's really nice. And those are things, before it wasn't about like those kind of things, right? It was like, what did he get you for the holiday? Or where'd you go? Or, did he show up nice at your parents? It has nothing to do with those things anymore. Does
Yeah.
that make sense?
Oh, for sure. Yes. I love all of the advice. It's like so much kind of dating value in here. Because I think that the dating world can be really confusing.
Hmm.
Especially when people are not showing up in their authentic selves, but also as their honest selves, because then it's like you have to play that horrible game, that never-ending game of trying to decipher, what is true, who is this person, are they going to be around, like, or do we want the same thing? So I think it, and once you decide to show up that way for yourself, that energy gets mirrored back to other people, and so it's going to be easier. Some people can be manipulative when dating if they're trying to get a certain thing, and so
Hmm.
if you're very clear about who you are, what you stand for, you're not going to be as easily swayed because you're creating your path distinctly.
Yeah, 100%. And I think also when you were explaining that, and then you're also not always worried about, do they like me? What are they doing? Where are they? You're really focusing on, I say, like, what is one of the big things I used to do? I used to figure out how to make sure I'm always available when they wanted me. What do I do now? I figure out what I need. And if I'm available, I go. That's
Sure.
a huge difference, right? I,
It
f-
is.
I used to always plan my schedule around them because you never know. But I don't anymore. I plan my schedule around me. And then when we do get together, it's even better.
Right. Yeah. Because you don't feel like you're sacrificing. And then you may not know it, but there could be like feelings of like a little bit of resentment. It's like, well, I always put off, my weekend plans and wait for you to tell me what we're doing. And so like unknowingly you're creating this like situation inside of yourself when really you can take control of that and not place kind of the responsibility on the other person. You can take responsibility for yourself. Um,
And that's the biggest relationship mistake I ever made. I didn't take responsibility for myself, right? If they didn't call back, what did I mean, I took responsibility for, if they didn't like me, what did I do wrong? I didn't take responsibility for, what do I want? What is it that I'm looking for? I was so eager to please them and to think, oh, once I have it, it'll be perfect. But
sure.
no,
Yeah.
now I know what I want. And what do you know? That old saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appeared. And who knows? I wanted someone who was kind and caring and, was community centered. And I found that person, who's deep and analytical and spiritual and all the things that I value.
That's awesome. Eileen, thank you so much. We've come full circle. We started with the mistake and we ended with the mistake. So that brings us around perfectly. So anything else you want to say as a last like sayonara? I think you just stated it pretty clearly.
No, just I was just going to say, just use Emmy's tools, and it seems like that'll get you that much further along to realize all these things. So it's
Uh,
great that you put those together and you give them out free, because you know what, no matter what, everyone needs a little help. And a relationship is one of the most important things in your life. And if they're not working, don't be shy, ask for help, because someone will help you. And that's what you want. That's what you want.
Sure. All right, Eileen. So I know that you also have this other project that you're super passionate about, and it's a book. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, my topic is managing annoying people. And it's really about in the leadership space and team dynamics, but really it works in relationships and dates, and definitely with mother in laws when you have them.
Ah,
So you can find me on Amazon. You can find me on LinkedIn, Eileen Marcus. My website is alignedworkplace.com or eileenmarcus.com. And check out Managing Annoying People, because you are too special to be annoyed, especially when you're on a date. You want, or in a relationship, you want your full self to show through. So I give you some tricks about how to really keep yourself calm and centered when everyone around you is driving you crazy.
oh my gosh, I love that. Who's not going to relate to that title, right? All right, thank you so much. And I'll put all of that
Thank you,
information
Emmy.
in the description as well if people want to get in touch with you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hey, what a discussion that we had with Eileen today. Love everything that she came with and she brought to us. As I'm sure you picked up from our conversation, one of the best things you can do for yourself, whether you're going through a breakup, in a relationship, or dating, is to get acquainted with yourself, get honest with yourself, understand yourself. The more you go inward, the more clear it is for you to make choices about everything else in your life. So, you don't have to kind of already be there. There's no set end point. As long as you're starting that process, as long as you are on that journey, then you are on a good path. So, when you're unsure of what you think or what you believe, or even insecure about yourself, your decisions that you make in your relationships, in your life, tend to be based on what you're not sure of. And so those decisions might lead you on multiple different paths that are not really the path you want to be on. So getting clear about where you want to be, even if it's just in the near future, can really help you with your choices. Because if you're presented with a person or a situation that isn't in alignment with that, then it's easy for you to either say no or set a boundary around it. Another thing that we discussed was the importance of paying attention to your core values. So something I highly recommend you do right now, if you haven't already reflected on this, is what are your core values? What do you stand for? What is most important to you, and how you want to feel in your relationship? If the person that you're dating or in a relationship with doesn't make you feel this way on a consistent basis, or if you don't make yourself feel that way regularly, then this is an area where you should bring awareness. It could be one of your blind spots. If you need help identifying any of your blind spots or figuring out how to change your behavior once you have identified it, then please reach out to me and let's chat about what your next steps can be. Please be sure to subscribe to the channel for the latest Candid episodes. I've got some great ones coming up for you, and like and share this video with anyone who you think would benefit. I will see you next time.